Have you ever wondered why we speak to a single person using plural grammar?
I mean, most people don't even notice they're doing it.
Right. But think about it. Every time you sit across a table from a friend, you look them dead in the eye and you say, "You were right." You are actually using this, like, linguistic ghost from hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, it's wild. You're using a plural verb for a totally singular person.
And almost no one stops to ask why. We just do it.
Because every time we conjugate that verb, we're carrying all this baggage of, centuries old social dynamics and class
Which
structures.
sounds heavy, but it's true.
It is. We just don't realize it because it has become entirely automatic for us. I mean, we navigate these really complex grammatical histories every single time we open our mouths to talk about the past.
Well, welcome to another deep dive, specifically tailored for you, the learner. Today, our mission is to unpack that exact mystery. We are examining two tiny everyday words, just was and were.
So important, though.
Oh, incredibly important. These are the past tense forms of the verb to be. And basically, their entire job is to anchor us to actions, situations, or conditions that have already concluded.
Right. They are the tools we use to report on our past realities.
Yeah, and the verb to be is quite literally the verb of existence.
Exactly. It establishes that something is real, right? That it occupies space or that a certain condition holds true. So when we shift that into the past tense, we are defining what used to be real.
What used to be real, I like that.
Yeah, and the way we categorize that past reality dictates which of those two words we have to use.
Right, so rather than thinking about this like a boring textbook grammar rule, let's look at it through a metaphor, like a camera lens.
Oh, I love the camera lens idea.
Yeah, so whenever you talk about the past, you have to choose a lens. You can zoom all the way in for a tight macro shot, or you can switch to a wide-angle lens to take in a broader landscape.
And the subject of your sentence, like who or what is performing the action or experiencing the condition, that determines the lens you pick.
Exactly. So let's start by zooming in. The singular path.
The domain of was.
Yes, was.
The operating principle here is singularity, which we can call the rule of one. Basically, was is the designated word for singular subjects.
Okay, so just one thing.
Right. When you are looking through that macro lens at exactly one person, one thing, or one concept, the language demands was. So in terms of pronouns, this covers I, he, she, and it.
Let's ground this in a relatable everyday environment for a second. Imagine a typical corporate office on, like, Tuesday morning. Someone checks the attendance and notes, Rahul was absent yesterday.
Right. And the mechanics there are incredibly clean.
Super clean.
Because the subject is Rahul. Rahul is one individual.
Yeah.
If we substitute his name for a pronoun, we use he.
Right.
So the condition of his absence in the past is locked in with the singular verb. He was absent.
The macro lens is focused entirely on him. It's just Rahul in the frame. And another observation in that same office might be, Priya was happy after the presentation.
Exactly. Again, we have a singular subject, Priya, she. It's one person experiencing an emotional condition, which is happiness, in a time that has already passed.
So she was. Priya was happy.
Yeah. The cognitive load on the speaker there is minimal because the physical reality of one human being aligns perfectly with the singular grammar. One person, one verb form.
Okay, let me push back on that idea of cognitive load for a second, though.
Go for it.
Because this whole oneness thing sounds simple until it hits the messy reality of how we organize ourselves.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, like what if the subject isn't a single human? What if I'm talking about a group, say a jury or a sports team, or a boardroom full of executives?
Right, the collective nouns.
Exactly. Let's take a boardroom. You've got 20 people sitting around a table. A colleague walks out and says, the meeting was interesting. Why isn't it the meeting were interesting given that there are literally 20 separate human beings involved?
Okay.
That feels like it completely breaks the rule of one.
It does feel like that, and that is exactly where the cognitive friction happens for a lot of people.
Yeah, because it's 20 people.
Right. The brain instinctively sees 20 people and wants to reach for that plural wide-angle lens. But we have to look really closely at the actual subject of the sentence. The subject isn't the executives. The subject is the meeting.
Oh, right, it's an it.
Precisely. It is a container.
A container, okay.
Yeah, think of it that way. A jury is a single container holding 12 people. A team is a single container holding a roster of players. And a meeting is a single unified event.
So the grammar doesn't care how many components are inside the container.
Not at all. It only cares about the container itself. If you can draw a mental circle around a concept and say, this is one complete entity, you stay on the singular path.
Okay, that makes so much sense.
The event itself is singular. Therefore, it takes was. Recognizing that container really takes the guesswork out of choosing the right word.
That distinction completely changes how you approach the sentence. You aren't counting the people, you are identifying the structure.
Exactly.
Whether it's one guy named Rahul, one woman named Priya, or one abstract container like a meeting, you use that macro lens. You use was, which I guess brings us to the moment we need to swap lenses.
Yes, the shift to the plural path, unpacking were.
So if the rule of one governs was, then the rule of many takes over for were.
Right. When the subject steps over the line from singular to plural-like, when we go from one to more than one, were handles the heavy lifting.
Got it.
So for pronouns, we are looking at we and they.
Let's look at how that office environment changes when we zoom out then. Our singular observation was Rahul being absent, but our plural observation is the employees were attending the training session.
Notice how the physical reality has shifted and the grammar shifts instantly to match it.
Yeah, immediately.
We are no longer talking about an isolated individual. The employees, plural,
Yeah.
multiple people. If we replace that phrase with a pronoun, it would be they.
Right.
So to describe their past action of attending the session, the language requires the plural verb they were attending.
The camera pulls back. You go from that solo spotlight to a wide-angle shot of the room. And the language can physically build that plural from scratch too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Think about our two singular employees, Rahul and Priya. We said Rahul was and Priya was. But if they team up for a project, the sentence becomes Rahul and Priya were preparing for the client meeting.
And that sentence structure right there reveals the underlying architecture of the language.
How so?
Because the moment you connect two singular subjects with the word and, you fundamentally alter the subject. 1 + 1 = 2.
The math checks out.
Right. They are now a plural unit, a they. You cannot say Rahul and Priya was preparing because the singular lens can no longer capture the subject. The subject has expanded.
It's too big for the macro lens now.
Exactly.
And that concept of multiplicity also applies to those abstract containers we talked about earlier, right?
Yes, it does.
Because the meeting was interesting. One event, one container. But if we're looking at the components of that event over the course of an afternoon, we might say the discussions were informative.
Yeah. The bell is at the end of discussions completely shatters the single container.
Oh, right. It breaks it open.
We are no longer dealing with a unified event. We are dealing with multiple distinct conversations. The oneness is gone.
So the discussions were.
Yes. The logic of the underlying architecture is incredibly consistent. It categorizes reality strictly into one or more than one.
Okay. It is logical right up until it isn't.
Oh boy, here we go.
Because there is a massive pothole in this system. And it brings us back to the ghost I mentioned at the very beginning of this deep dive. The word you.
Yes. The ultimate grammatical curveball.
It really is. I mean, I could be sitting right across from you looking at exactly one individual human being, one entity.
A clear candidate for the macro lens.
A perfect candidate.
Yeah.
But I don't say you was my friend. I say you were my friend.
Right.
Why in the world does a singular you demand the plural were? It seems to violate every single principle we just established about the rule of one and the rule of many.
It totally does violate the current logical framework.
Then why do we do it?
Because the rule governing you is a leftover artifact from a completely different era of English. To understand why we say you were to a single person, we have to travel back a few hundred years.
Okay, take us back. What happened?
So historically, English had two completely different words for speaking to the person across from you.
Two different words.
Yeah. If you were speaking to one single person informally, you use the word thou, and thou took singular verbs like thou wast.
Thou wast. Okay, Shakespeare vibes.
Exactly. But if you were speaking to a group of people, or if you were speaking to one person formally, like royalty, or someone of a higher social class, you use the plural word, which was you.
Wait, that is so similar to French, where tu is the singular informal and vous is the plural or the formal polite version.
Exactly like that. You was the English vous. It was plural, and it carried the sense of respect and formal distance.
Oh, yeah.
And because it was a plural pronoun, it naturally took the plural verb were. So you were originally meant all of you were, or your majesty was.
Okay, so how did thou completely disappear, leaving us to speak to everyone like they are royalty?
Over time, the social dynamics shifted. People became increasingly concerned about causing offense by using the informal thou with someone who might consider themselves socially superior.
Oh, so they were just covering their bases.
Pretty much. To be safe, people just started using the polite, formal, plural you with absolutely everyone.
Strangers, friends?
Family members, everyone. And eventually, thou fell out of fashion entirely.
That is wild. The singular pronoun vanished because people were essentially overcorrecting to be polite.
Yes, you took over both roles. It became the word for addressing a crowd of 100 people and the word for addressing your best friend.
Right.
But, and this is the crucial mechanism, it never lost its plural verb.
It kept...
It kept were. So today, whether you are talking to one single person across a table or addressing an entire stadium, the grammar behaves as if it's plural. It bypasses the singular path entirely.
That completely reframes the frustration learners feel. It's not just an arbitrary rule created to make spelling tests harder.
Yeah, not at all.
It's a linguistic fossil. You always takes were in the past tense because grammatically speaking, you still thinks it's a plural pronoun.
Exactly. Once you accept that you is the historical exception that proves the rule, the entire system becomes incredibly reliable.
Yeah, it really does.
I, he, she, it take was,
Oh.
we, they, and the multipurpose you take were.
Having that historical context is a huge aha moment. So we have the map now, we understand the lenses, we know why the ghost is in the machine.
We do.
But, understanding the theory isn't much good until you observe how people actually navigate the terrain in real time.
Right. Theory into practice.
Let's bring all these rules together and look at a continuous narrative. Let's return to Priya's first day at the office.
Observing a continuous scenario is where we really see the transition between the inward perspective and the outward perspective. It shows how the pronouns shape the flow of conversation.
Okay, so I want you, the listener, to imagine you are eavesdropping on a conversation in the corporate break room. Priya is pouring a cup of coffee, and she's reflecting on how her morning started. She's looking back at a past condition, and she says, I was nervous before my presentation.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics there. She is the speaker, talking about her own internal state.
Yeah.
The subject is I, singular, deeply personal. So she naturally uses the macro lens. I was nervous. It grounds her individual experience perfectly in the past.
It's a completely internal reflection.
Yeah.
But then Rahul walks in, and he's giving her external feedback on that exact same event. And he says, you were very confident during the meeting.
And right there, we see the historical VIP pass in action.
The over-politeness fossil.
Exactly. Rahul is speaking to one person, Priya. But because he uses the pronoun you, he must switch tracks. He reaches for the plural verb, you were. The structure demands it.
It is a totally mundane exchange, but it relies on the entire engine of the past tense to function smoothly. I was nervous. You were confident. They are navigating the past together, pulling different grammatical levers depending on where they are standing.
And the choice of words subtly shifts the relationship dynamic, too. Priya's was is introspective. Rahul's were is observational, directed outward.
Oh, that's interesting.
The grammar itself reflects the spatial relationship between the two speakers.
So bringing this directly back to you, the listener, you might understand the mechanics now. You understand the singular container, the plural shift, and the ghost of the word you. But why does mastering this actually matter for your daily life?
Right, why care?
Because at the beginning, we established that this isn't about diagramming sentences on a chalkboard.
No, the ultimate application of this knowledge is about fluency and cognitive flow. Learning the correct underlying logic of was and were helps learners speak and write about past events accurately and naturally.
That word naturally really stands out.
Well, think about it. Whenever we tell stories, whenever we report on a project at work, whenever we explain why we were stuck in traffic, we are living in the past tense.
Yeah, constantly.
We are constantly describing conditions that have already happened. If you are constantly hesitating before you speak, trying to mentally calculate if it's the meeting was or the meeting were, you consume valuable cognitive resources.
You're just doing math in your head while trying to talk.
Exactly. You lose your flow. You lose your natural rhythm.
It's the conversational equivalent of tripping over your own feet.
Exactly. But when you internalize the mechanism, When the concept of the singular container and the wide-angle plural becomes second nature, you stop translating rules in your head.
You stop second-guessing those collective nouns.
Right, you just speak.
Yeah.
You navigate your own history with authority. It builds a foundational confidence in everyday interactions because you aren't just communicating, you are communicating with clarity and precision.
You are operating the camera without having to look at the buttons.
That's a great way to put it.
We have covered a lot of deep linguistic ground today. Let's do a rapid-fire recap to make sure the map is locked in for you.
All right, the overarching summary is this. Was is your singular lens. It is strictly for singular subjects, I, he, she, and it.
Right.
One person, one thing, or one unified container, like a meeting or a team.
And were is your plural lens. It steps in for plural subjects, we and they, more than one person or thing. Plus, it permanently hosts the word you because you used to be a formal plural pronoun and never gave up its plural verb.
So singular takes was, plural, and you take were.
Boiled down to its essence, it really is that clean. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Let's hear it.
We've established that was and were are the linguistic anchors we use to define our past realities. They are how we construct memory.
Which means they play a massive role in the psychology of storytelling.
Exactly. Think about how shifting from the singular was to the plural were completely rewrites the narrative of a memory.
Oh, this is profound.
Imagine you were telling a story about a difficult period in your life. If you say, I was struggling, that paints a picture of complete isolation.
Yeah, it's a solo journey. The macro lens is focused solely on your individual pain.
But if you shift the subject, if you broaden the scope, and the story becomes, we were struggling.
Wow, yeah, suddenly the entire landscape of the memory changes.
We were struggling. You are no longer alone in that past reality. You have moved from individual isolation to a shared human experience just by swapping the pronoun and shifting from was to were.
It really demonstrates how language doesn't merely describe our reality, it actively shapes how we understand our connection to the people around us.
The next time you are telling a story about your past, pay close attention to the words you choose. Notice how often you transition between your individual, isolated experience, I was, and your shared communal experiences, we were. Analyzing your own storytelling might just change how you view your history. Keep learning, keep exploring, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.